benefit the most marginalized. Thank you. Normally, we always have the final evaluation, and we actually provide the awards during the general GDN conference. However, the last few years were slightly different. Yet, since we now have the opportunity, we felt it was the right time for it. But before we actually go into it, I actually invite Dr. Mine from the director of JICA Research Institute to give a few words. And after that, we'll go for the president of GDN, Jean-Louis Acrant. Mr. Mine, please.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just a few words. I'm Yoichi Mine from Executive Director of JICA Research Institute. Precisely JICA Ogata Sadako Research Institute for Peace and Development. JICA is the acronym of the Japan International Cooperation Agency. So I'm very glad, I'm very much honored to be here, be part of this ceremony. And on behalf of the Japanese Ministry of Finance and giving award to the prestigious awardees. So the COVID is now over. During the pandemic, I was actually translating a English book on the Kantian philosophy on deontology and dignity. It's very much complicated argument into Japanese. It was a fun, but I definitely prefer field work. So now I'm here, we are here in Ecuador. So let's celebrate this reunion of these global development networks. So congratulations on the achievement of research of the awardees, and congratulations on all of us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not going to take any of your time because let's get right to it in terms of giving out these awards. It's been a long time coming, yes, and people have been, some of the people here had, what's remarkable is that they finally get their awards. I know how much João, who's hovering in the corner here, how much this means to him. But it means a lot to GDN also because this really is a flagship award, and it's anyway. Let's just go through it.
We shall. First of all, let me just make a small remark here because I know that my other grantees are walking at home. You will all get one at home, I promise. But we're just going to provide those that are here represented because they deserve it as those at home. So without further ado, I would like to call on stage Jean Minui because we're here representing the first prize winner, the first prize from the ORD category, the research category from the 2020 edition. And may I invite you, please? Words are heavy. Take a picture and then step back. I would also like to call now on stage as well the representative from the 2021 edition of the research component, the third prize from the PI Chukwuka Oniukiwena, being represented here by the co-PI, Austin Iraya. We'll make it faster. I'm getting in that. Now, from the projects being implemented by NGOs, I would like to call here in representation of the United Way of Mumbai, from that got the second prize, Dr. Shailesh Wagal. Everyone wants a picture, of course. I would like now to be called on stage the representative and actual project director from Dufanaya. Yes, thank you. Dufanaya organization, Paula White Maga, who got the second prize winner as well on the MRAP category, the development projects. Paula, thank you. Moving next to call on stage the representative action project director from the International Transformation Foundation, Venusti Kubiwamana, that got the first prize on the development stage from the 2020-21 edition. That is right there. Keep on clapping. Another first prize winner representing the Saves the Children India, Mrs. Kritanjali Kaship, up on stage, the first prize winner as well. Thank you. Now moving into the latest edition, the first prize winner from the ORD category, Hakimu Siviri, to come on stage, please. The second prize winner from the research component, Shabana Kwan, please come on stage with Nova as well, the co-PI that is here present. Representing the third prize winner, Cristo Gorgopolo, with the co-PI Lucia Paiwilaile. Please come on stage. Calling now on stage the representative from Yardo, since the project director is not here, but we have Nova to represent him on development program category. And last but not least, the second prize winner from the NGO, the Development Projects Implementation. I call on stage Kelly Koch, the managing director from Koto. The last one. Yes. Yeah. Can call up. They're all there. Can I please call the winners to come back on stage just for a group picture? Now you have a trophy and I gotta make you work out a little bit. Now we're gonna take a group picture, please, here front. I would say one on the other side. No.
Okay.
Just one final note, just to clarify, every single one of you that is at home listening to us, you'll get your own trophy and your own certificate because you're all winners, as you all know. Give a microphone. Okay. Yes.
Ahora el GSDF.
Sí.
Pero aquí. Yes, ahora. Cero a cero, primero. Okay, so look, let's keeping this moving along. So now on behalf of GDN and with JICA on stage, it's my pleasure to announce the winners of the Japan Social Development Fund Award, the JSDF. And there are 3 awards. And first award is on the quality of urban infrastructure and community-driven governance. This is close to my heart. I spent a lot of time doing research on CDD, on community-driven development. The work is done in India, and it's the Dream Accelerator project. Second, again, it's community driven. I love this. I was doing this like 20 years ago, so it's wonderful that this is now becoming mainstream. This JSDF prize is community driven climate related disaster risk reduction in rural areas. The NGO was the International Aid Services, Kenya. So it's in Kenya, and the project was on rainwater harvesting upscale to address the impact of climate change in Tharaka Nithi County of Kenya. Please give them a warm round of applause. And last and not least, the theme was universal health coverage and COVID. The NGO was the Kids Home Development Network Foundation. This was in Thailand. And the project title was Building Bridges to Better Health Outcomes for Migrant Workers and Their Children in the Thai Construction Sector. So please give a warm round of applause for these people.
Thank you. Congratulations to all the GSDF winners. We'll be following up with all of them. But also, please, I would ask for a round of applause for the ones that did not win it, because their projects were also amazing and will continue on the ground. Thank you both. We'll move to the next one. I invite you to go back into the stage if you'd like. To the stage, to the audience. Yes.
Okay, you want to say something? Huh? Oh, you want to say something? No. Hey everyone, we're almost there. Okay, well, I think we cannot close officially the conference without mentioning about an activity, a very special activity that took place in this conference for the first time. And I think this is because of the topic. This year's topic was just literally irresistible, not to us to cook up some fun and do something interesting with it. So we were in the beginning not sure if this was going to work with the usual GDN crowd, but we give it a go. So we team up with the fine folks of WWF in Ecuador. We made an open call, and to our surprise, we got a overwhelming response. We got many entries from all the Global South. More than 200 people was interested in telling a story about biodiversity and development through snapshots. So one of our colleagues who is sitting there proposed a very nice idea. So we launched the biodiversity and development through the lens. So today, I just want to congratulate our winners. I want to also give a big thanks to our fantastic team of judges, and of course to WWF for sponsoring this. Our winner is not here. He's in Argentina, but he must be watching. And also people from India and other parts of Latin America. It's a bit biased, I would say. It's more Latin America driven, but I think it's also great news. So I just want to read the name. Santiago Sainz Trápaga is the first place in the general category of the contest. Mahesh Kamalashkan Pillai, second place. Paula Taraborelli, third place general. And then a special mention to Fernanda Cortez, Anshu Gupta, Fabian Castillo, and Fabricio Pozo Paredes. So I'm sure most of you have taken a chance to go through the pictures, read the fantastic stories behind these pictures. And well, if it's not yet, I welcome you to go and take a look. And thank you so very much for this. It has been a pleasure for me. Well, I think now we can move on with our next phase. I think we should call Jean-Louis back to the stage. So I'll leave you with Jean-Louis. Thank you.
Thanks, Pablo. So I know that basically I'm all that's standing in the way of you and a drink. So I'll try to be that could make me very unpopular here. So let me try to be brief, and I'm going to try to sort of summarize stuff, which is an impossible task. First thing is basically why should we why do we choose this theme, right? Why biodiversity? By the way, and the stuff I'm gonna say, I'm gonna nakedly plagiarize a lot of presentations. Okay, so you know who you are, and don't sue me. That's all I can say. I'm not going to give attribution, but you know who you are. So in simple words, I mean, without biodiversity, we can't survive. This is an existential question. Simple as that. The list of services that biodiversity provides, and I even hate, even though I'm an economist, I hate using the word services. It sort of seems to be slightly reductionist, but yes, you know, food, water, medicine, solid waste, controlling disasters. David Cooper, let me just quote him actually, because he's the executive secretary of CBD. You know, we talk a lot about sustainable development, especially in my field, development economics, but without biodiversity, there is no sustainable development. And yes, and even before I get into sort of what people were saying and all the themes that sort of came out of the conference, I also just wanted to thank USFQ. When we were trying to think a few months ago about where to do this conference on biodiversity, we looked at various places, and Ecuador just sort of seemed like a natural fit in terms of biodiversity. And USFQ is also the only university with a campus on the Galapagos Islands, right? So seems kind of appropriate, and it also seems appropriate, you know, to have partnered with Future Earth, whose goal is to solve. I'll get back to solve ecological problems and social problems in the global south. I'll get back to thanks later on. So I'm a development economist, and in some sense, as I think I mentioned at the opening of the conference, my knowledge of biodiversity has sort of, you know, I can't even calculate the increase in percentage terms because it went basically from 0 to a positive number preparing for this conference. And what is terrifying in some sense is how biodiversity has been absent from the development agenda over the past years. We talk a lot about climate change, but we don't talk about biodiversity. And hopefully, by doing this conference, GDN and its partners has contributed a little epsilon in terms of, you know, moving things in that direction. The world of research, and it's like a, now I'm just showing my age, it's like a large ocean-going vessel, right? And to move it takes a lot of effort. But if we can just move it, you know, literally by an epsilon, that may change things for the good. In the plenary A, actually on yesterday, Simon Levin, who's a great scientist, he also happens to be extremely eloquent, and he sort of insisted, right, on sort of how all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle fit together, and that the delicate conglomerate, I think was the term he used, it's not a random collection of species, a delicate conglomerate that operates and cooperates together. I find it's poetic when you hear that. I'll get back to culture actually in a second. But one of the things that has come out here is that we have a serious education problem, right? People, our students, and I've spent 32 years in the educational sector. Our students, maybe this generation is, I have some young kids, maybe they're conscious of this, but we do have an education problem in terms of education, in terms of educating the general public about biodiversity issues. And again, hopefully what we're doing here can contribute an epsilon to that. I don't want us to be accused, whether it's in this room or at GDN at large, of hubris. So let me continue with sort of themes that I saw in this conference. And if you go over the conference program, I think these will be pretty obvious to you. So the first thing is that there was an emphasis, I think, in most sessions, both the plenaries and the parallel sessions, there was a key word here, a buzzword. You know when you do those pictures where you sort of have a whole bunch of words, and the words which come out, you know, when you do the frequency count, you know, the word which comes out most frequently is bigger, right? It has bigger font. I think the word that came out is collaboration. That's one of the words that really came out. But collaboration can mean a whole bunch of different things. So we had sessions, plenaries, and parallel sessions where people were talking about collaboration between the public and the private sector. Okay, so, you know, PPPs in the sense of public-private partnerships. We had discussions where the collaboration word was associated with local versus global. Yeah, that's already a second level of collaboration. We had a level of, we were using the word collaboration also in terms of interdisciplinarity. And I know my quip in terms of inter, trans, multi, and cross of the opening yesterday, but again, the collaboration between natural and social scientists, which is such a hard thing to do. And those of us on either side of the divide, the fact that I call it a divide already speaks loudly, right? We need to communicate and collaborate between social science and the natural sciences and other types of hard science. And then fourth is collaboration between research and policymaking. And God knows we need more of that. And again, I don't want to be sort of a hubristic economist. You know, the one time a really famous economist ran a finance ministry, a really famous economist, it was Joseph Schumpeter, and it led to the Austrian hyperinflation. So I would not recommend, you know, that type of collaboration. But policymakers have to, I'll get back to this, but policymakers have to listen to research, but researchers also have to learn how to communicate their research to policymakers in a manner in which they can actually use it. And as a researcher, I must admit, to put it really scientifically, we suck. We're really bad on average at communicating our research to policymakers. A second big theme which came up during the conference was the theme, and this is a cross-cutting theme, was the fact that there is a category of people who represent 5% of the world's population, only a quarter of total land, but who live in places that account for 80% of biodiversity. And I'm talking about indigenous peoples. And this was a theme that came up in a large number of sessions, and it's a theme that I think most of us need to be sensitized about, the theme of indigenous peoples. A fourth theme that came across in the conference was governance. In French, we have this horrible term, bonne gouvernance. C'est un pléonasme, right? Si c'est de la gouvernance, elle est bonne, right? So no tiene sentido, ¿no? La gobernancia normalmente es una cosa buena, ¿no? Buena gobernancia. So governance, but governance here is also, how do we mobilize society to fund research? Right? It's very difficult to get policymakers in certain fields to realize why research is something which is important and which deserves to the taxpayers' dollars. And fourth theme, I'm trying to be practical here also, from governance, we go to implementation, right? How, even if we have the best idea in the world and we manage to get funding and we get it onto, whatever level of government it is in terms of whether it's local, provincial, federal, whatever the structure of your country, how do we get stuff implemented, right? And again, here, we have to be inclusive of all sectors of society. But another way of putting this, let me take an Argentine example. Anti-poverty programs. The late great Martin Ravalian, who was Mr. Poverty at the World Bank, worked a lot on the Trabajar program. And what he realized, and this is sort of a note of caution, is that in anti-poverty programs, what's the holy grail is targeting. You want to identify the poor people. But that doesn't work. Perfectly identifying the poor people doesn't work, because if you don't have what's known in the literature as leakage to the lower middle class, they'll paralyze the program. So when we're talking about implementation, you also cannot be more Catholic than the Pope, right? Sometimes, on the one hand, it's inclusiveness, but on the other hand, sometimes it isn't all black and white, right? There's sort of shades of gray, and you have to be aware of those shades of gray. A fifth theme which came up especially today was the theme of access to finance. And this is access to finance both at the local level for projects going on at the local level. But so that goes from the micro or the nano, accessing finance to be able to carry out projects in the field, but it goes to the mega macro in terms of the reform of the international financial architecture, which is something that the world community is proving singularly inept at doing. And how we're going to get from where we are now to where we hopefully want to get without a reform of the international financial architecture, God knows. But finance is not the enemy. Finance can be our friend, right? And creating asset classes and ways in which people who have a profit motive, right? Because moral suasion it's not going to get us the whole way. I mean, we have humans respond to incentives. We have to manage to create asset classes which will allow us to protect and enhance biodiversity. And then a fifth theme, I think I've not lost count, are the economic benefits of biodiversity and mainstreaming this into the discourse. I always tell my students when they finish their PhD and they go into the academic or especially into the policy world, don't try to sell an idea on the basis of equity or justice. sell it as an investment case. If you can sell it in terms of economic benefits, you'll have a much easier sell. This is true in health. The WHO has realized this. The WHO, when they look at a potential policy, health policy, they create an investment case. Because there's always going to be, in the health sphere, there's always this tension between the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Finance. Okay? And the way in which you get stuff done is by making sure that you have a good economic argument. It doesn't mean that you have to necessarily believe it. Let's be realists here, right? You may not believe it, but if you can't make the investment case, you're not going to get this into policy. And then something which is something, and I'm going to pick on, and he knows, well, actually, I'll simply look straight at him. I'm going to pick on my Ethiopian friend right away. And another theme is culture. This links also to the indigenous peoples issue and local knowledge, and biodiversity is culture. And you had a wonderful quote, Girma. You said, culture defines nature and nature affects culture. Culture gets lost without nature and nature gets its meaning from culture. It's poetry, Ethiopian poetry. And finally, the link, again, between research and policy. And this is in some sense what this conference, I hope, is also about, and a lot of GDN's activities is bridging the gap in some sense between research and policy. And the East is the East and the West is the West, and never the twain shall meet. To a certain extent, this is what happens in all fields, but in particular where it pertains to biodiversity, we really have to make a huge educational effort, not just in terms of our students, but also in terms of policymakers. In some sense, this conference, in a very small way, is also a call to action. So let me stop boring you now and just say a few words of thanks. So first of all, I'd like to thank our partners, Universidad de San Francisco de Quito. Thank you for hosting us. Your soups are great. No, but it says a lot about an institution where in the cafeteria the soup is good. Okay, and I've been in enough academic institutions to know that that's not always the case. Future Earth, again, thank you so much for partnering with us on this. People also who funded in part this conference, generous support from the Hewlett Foundation. We asked for a certain amount, they offered us more. Okay, God knows I'd like that to happen more often. Okay, that's not something that happens very often. The World Bank, actually DEC, the World Bank, and France through l'Agence Française de Développement, who are partners in other activities in the Ministère des Finances. Anyway, thank you to all of those partners, formal partners for making this conference possible. And then two other, both tangible and intangible partners. So first of all, I would really like to thank all the student volunteers of USFSQ. Who have been absolutely adorable in steering everyone and making sure that we haven't had the usual thing that you have in conferences with people sort of wandering aimlessly looking as if they have Alzheimer's. Okay, and people have got to their rooms, and they've done this with a smile, and thank you. Muchas gracias por toda su ayuda. And last but not least, I would like to thank the whole GDN team. So I'm the new kid on the block. I joined GDN in January, so I'm really the new kid on the block. But this is definitely the A team, contrary to some people at an organization that we dislike in Delhi once said. You know who I'm talking about. Yeah, they've been fantastic. The planning for this conference started much later than we might have wanted for various reasons, but people stepped up to the plate, whether it was in communications, finance, logistics, and then above all, I want to thank basically, well, I refer to him as the conference Sherpa. He doesn't seem to like that very much. Here we might refer to him as El Caudillo, João. So please, a big word of thanks to João. And yes, I don't know where he is. Ah, there he is. Okay, so yes, as a lot of participants know from his harassment via email, he can be a pain in the ass. Probably not allowed to say that, right? I'll be commented out, but thank you, João. It's thanks to João that this happened. And basically that's it. But just one thing now. This is sort of the sneak preview of where next year's GDN annual conference will be. So contact your local travel agent, and this conference is over.
Bula Binaka to all the participants of the 23rd Global Development Conference, which is being held in Quito, Ecuador, with the theme Biodiversity and Sustainable Development. I am so glad to greet you all from the beautiful island of Fiji. As we say in Fiji, happiness comes naturally because it's in our culture, our family, our warm Bula spirit, and stunning natural surroundings. Fiji has played a major role in the world of ideas and in promoting development in the Pacific. And it is indeed a privilege for Fiji to be part of the Global Development Network, a global research community. We support and look forward to GDN role in strengthening research capacity across countries, disciplines, evidence-based approach to capacity building and contribution of social sciences to development debates and policy. Our membership will enable Fijian policymakers, researchers, academics, and professional bodies to undertake and produce evidence-based policies that is contextualized to the local region. It will also ensure that many Fijian researchers will be able to engage in GDN's global research and its community. And also one of the best possible way of integrating Fiji's research community into the international body of researchers and ensuring that their knowledge and understanding of development is broadly shared. In addition, we are utmost grateful to be presented with an opportunity to host the 25th Annual Global Development Conference in 2024 in Fiji, which will bring back GDN's flagship event to the Pacific region. Hosting the annual Global Development Conference will enable a larger contingent of participants from the Pacific and local and regional research institutes and knowledge to be featured on a theme to be mutually agreed in line with the identified development priorities in the Pacific region. The conference will contribute to strengthening our capacity and professional visibility, offering perspectives on sustainable development issues mostly debated in developed countries, and reinforces cooperation and development effectiveness. Through the conference, we aim to foster an environment conducive to open and constructive discussions. We encourage the exchange of ideas, best practices, and lessons learned with a focus on solutions that are tailored to the unique context of Pacific Island economies. The conference will help us to identify policy gaps, devise innovative approaches, and formulate evidence-based strategies that can navigate our economies through these uncertain times. Our membership is very timely as our new coalition government has reestablished the Strategic Planning Office to ensure better coordination and formulation of a strategic and robust development pathway for the nation. We are building our research capacity, improving our networking, and also capacity building with universities. I call for action to the participating researchers and development practitioners and member countries of GDN, and I can affirm on behalf of Fiji's new coalition government that we are steadfast in our commitment to build, strengthen partnerships that enhance a sustainable future for the people of Fiji and the Pacific region. I look forward to seeing you in Fiji in 2024. Thank you, Vinaka Vakelevu, and Dhanyawad.
Just two more words. So that was Biman Prasad, who's the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance of Fiji. And he was, to summarize it in 30 seconds, he was saying two things apart. One thing is the conference. I think you got that. The other thing is GDN has 5 member countries right now. And Fiji, I don't know who will get there first, but either Fiji or France will be the 6th. y por qué no Ecuador en el futuro. Ayúdanos para el membership de Ecuador. Entonces, ita misa est.